Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, Derek got a very fun and exciting video for you guys today, and one that I was very excited to make. That's because I'm going to be talking about the Neo Geo AES Plus from Plaion Replay, and all of the 10 games that are quote-unquote launch games. And even though these games launched a very long time ago on the original Neo Geo AES, I've gotten so many questions in the comments asking what I would recommend you buy, what I'd recommend you think about, and maybe what I'd recommend you quote-unquote stay away from. And even though the quote-unquote launch library is absolutely filled with some bangers, we're here to talk about all of those today. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. And before you say that basically all of these games are available elsewhere cheaper, I 100% know that, and absolutely you don't need to buy a single one of these. We're just here to talk about the launch library and have fun. And I will say right now on the must-buy list, if you don't own a copy of it somewhere else, or if you want to play it on a modern AES cartridge, the original Metal Slug is just one of the best running gun games ever made. And because Plaion has said that the Neo Geo AES Plus is going to have an overclocking mode, something we have on MiSTer FPGA as well for Metal Slug, you can expect even better performance than you're seeing right here. Because admittedly, something like Metal Slug can absolutely be a slideshow in certain areas on the Neo Geo, so imagine a world in which you could run this even faster. That is definitely a world I want to live in, and that is why I definitely picked up a Metal Slug cart when I actually test and review the AES Plus. You can absolutely not go wrong with Metal Slug unless you hate the run and gun genre, and if you've never played this game before, trust me, you're missing out on one of the most incredible arcade games ever made. This is just Hall of Fame first bout levels of good, and it is definitely one of those games I absolutely recommend you pick up when it comes to the AES Plus. And honestly, it's kind of fun that they decided to start at the original Metal Slug, and hopefully by the time this is done, if they do release more games, then the entirety of the Metal Slug run, yes, even 4 or 5, which are a little bit janky, exist on something like the Plaion AES Plus. That is definitely something I would love to see. I think it's something that a lot of you would love to see as well. You tell me down below, have you ever played Metal Slug, and have you picked this cart up if you are buying an AES Plus? Because this is one that has, in my opinion, near infinite replayability. You could spend dozens upon dozens of hours going through this game and seeing new things, and if you want to do a 1cc, even on normal difficulty, you could probably spend weeks just doing nothing but playing Metal Slug and have an absolutely amazing time with it. So for me, it is absolutely a must-buy on the AES Plus. Now moving over to the next game that I would consider an absolute important part of the AES Plus release library, and one that I did not buy because I own an original AES copy that I've had for like 15 years now, is Geru Mark of the Wolves. This game, in my opinion, and I feel like I'm pretty confident in saying a decent amount of people's opinions, is the best 2D fighting game ever made by any developer. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Street Fighter Alpha 3, and I think that game is like 99.998% as good as Mark of the Wolves. But for me personally, the overall AES aesthetic here, the incredible sprite and background that the SNK devs and artists made back in the day, and the overall fighting game engine just make this thing absolute perfection. And I looked up the most current going price if I wanted to sell my copy, and they're well over $2,000 any day of the week right now, and that's with some copies that don't actually have the registration card that I have in mine. And while I would never sell my copy of Geru Mark of the Wolves, if I did not own one and I like fighting games, it would immediately be in my cart when I picked up an AES Plus. The only reason you would not want to have this thing in your collection is if you own it somewhere else and you don't feel the need to actually have a retread of it, where we just absolutely hate 2D fighting games. Because if you don't like the genre, even something like Mark of the Wolves is not going to convince you to suddenly fall in love with it. But if you like Neo Geo fighting games and you want to own, in my opinion, the absolute best fighting game SNK ever made, all the way up to 2026, this is 100% the game for you. And again, it's just so fun to handle these big cartridges, even if they might not feel 100% the same way in the AES Plus revision, because I'm sure they'll be slightly lighter, and honestly they're not going to smell like old cigarettes from Japan. That is a Neo Geo vibe after all, and it's not going to smell the same. This is just something you're going to get an infinite amount of fun out of this one. Invite a friend over for a fighting game night, hell, invite 10, put this cart in, and you're going to all fall in love with it. It's also going to be our first soundtrack sample because it has, in my opinion, some of the best music ever put to an AES game as well. So go ahead and listen for like 35 seconds, but come back because I'm going to go over the 8 other games that are still available.
One. Fight! Round 2. Fight!
Mark of the Wolves is just perfection, and trust me, you will not be disappointed by it if you pick a copy up. Now, staying with the absolute must-buy is one that, again, that I didn't pick up because I do have the cartridge. This is Polestar, and in my opinion, it is the best shmup on the Neo Geo AES or MVS, so long as you're not looking for anything that would be considered bullet hell whatsoever, because this game is slow, it's methodical, it's memorization-based, and it will absolutely kill you in new and creative ways every single time you play the game until you memorize it start to finish. This game will take you out into a dark alley, mug you, and leave you for dead, having stolen all the quarters out of your pocket. But the nice thing is, on an AES, you're not actually putting quarters in. But don't forget, on AES mode for most of these games, you're limited to 5 credits before you actually run out, unless you use cheats on a Unibios or go over to the MVS menu. And I'm sure that something like the AES Plus is probably going to have those MVS dip switches as well, so you can play that version. But it really is fun when you're learning these games to not credit feed them, but to actually just basically take those 5 credits the game give you on AES mode and to decide for yourself, that's all I have. If I can't beat the game, I'm going to have to start from scratch and basically learn it. And absolutely, something like Polestar is a have to learn it game. Everything is going to happen the exact same way every single time you play the game, so muscle memory is going to be a huge component to it, and learning that as a shmup is absolutely satisfying in my opinion. And even though this game has slowdown, it's one that I would never try to remove the slowdown from, because it is an important part of the game. Slowdown in shmups is there so you can actually get a better read on the bullets and move around the screen more effectively. So if this thing would overclock on an AES Plus, I personally would leave that overclock off completely and just run it at its stock speed. But the graphics in this are absolutely outstanding. The animation of all the enemy sprites, the overall vibe and creativity of Polestar make it one of my favorite shmups of all time, and absolutely hand down my favorite shmup on the AES or MVS. It's just one of those things. This game absolutely is a gorgeous looking game, a perfect playing shmup, and really does challenge you to try to get better at it every single time you play. This is the type of thing for $90. You're going to get so many hours out of the play on this one. So who is it for? Anyone who likes shmups whatsoever and wants to own a copy of Polestar. Who is it not for? If you hate shmups, again, I don't think there's going to be anything here that convinces you that it's the genre you want to play. But for me personally, I absolutely love this game. I love my cart, and it's one of those things I think if you pick this one up, you're going to find it is very satisfying. It's also our next soundtrack sample, so go ahead and listen for 45 seconds. But don't worry, come back. I still have 7 more games from the launch library to talk about. But enjoy. I mean, Polestar literally fires on all cylinders, and it is, in my opinion, another perfect game and one that you'd be very happy to pick up. Now, moving over to a game that I did order with my AES Plus is Big Tournament Golf, always and well known as Neo Turf Masters. I'll always call it that, even if the name in the US is Big Tournament Golf, and that's because apparently the PGA and Masters people got upset back in the day, and that actual name has been abandoned as far as a trademark is concerned. This is a game, if you actually wanted to buy it on AES, it's going to cost you near as much as a brand new basic sedan that would be for sale at a car lot today, and no game is worth that much, even if it's one of those things. If I had infinite money, I'd damn well own a copy. This is, again, an absolute must-buy when it comes to the AES Plus, and I was so happy to see this game listed when they announced it. I've always wanted to own an AES copy, and obviously AES Plus games are not original AES games, and I'm not trying to say they are or could be considered quote-unquote replacements, but having an AES Plus cart on my shelf in its snap-lock case and being able to play something like Neo Turf Masters whenever I want, that is the reason I picked this one up, and it is even enhanced with the Scotland course on there as well. The first time that all 5 courses from this game, the Neo Geo CD version, are going to be available on one cart, and that is, in my opinion, reason enough to pick it up because I own this as an MVS cartridge, I own the Neo Geo CD version of the game, and I bought the damn thing again just so I can put one cartridge into an AES and play every single bit of what Neo Turf Masters has to offer. This game, again like the other ones I've mentioned, near infinite replayability. If you can even get par, let alone under par in Scotland, it would probably take you a month or two of solid practice every single night to learn the course and understand exactly how that's done. And for $90 compared to the actual retail cost of having an original, you're basically going to get so many hours out of that $90. And I totally get it, 90 isn't cheap, but for what you're getting here, to me it feels like a fair price. And again, don't forget, nothing Neo Geo is ever cheap, but for the AES Plus in games, hell of a lot cheaper than if you actually went out and got the original AES copies, which I don't recommend anyone get at this point in time whatsoever. Now it's time to talk about my beloved King of Fighters 2002, because 2002, just like 98, is what they call a dream match. There really isn't any story, it is just a versus fighting game that brings together the massive roster of King of Fighters and just basically lets you do whatever the hell you want with it. Now, if you're going to buy only one fighting game for your AES Plus and you don't own Garo, Mark of the Wolves, or King of Fighters 2002, honestly, I would say go ahead and pick up Mark of the Wolves. If you want to have more than one fighting game for your Neo Geo AES Plus, the second game should absolutely, in my opinion, be King of Fighters 2002. This is the first Neo Geo AES cart I ever bought back in 2005, basically new old stock a few years after it released, and I have played this game to death and it is still one of my favorite entries. And I know some people out there would have rather seen King of Fighters 98 than 2002 for the launch library, and I totally get that. People could debate what the better game is for the dream matches, 98 or 2002, but the reality situation is both games are so incredibly good, you really can't lose. And if there is another round of AES Plus cards, I'd love to see 98 come there as well, even if I have the entire run, King of Fighters 94 to 2003 on original AES cartridges. This, just like Garo, Mark of the Wolves, is a perfect fighting game that's going to give you so many hours of content, and because it is King of Fighters, you get the 3 versus 3 kind of tournament style fighting game, so you get a longer match out of this one, and doing a run of this game to the final boss, you do get more play time. It's also going to be our next soundtrack sample because, again, absolute 10 out of 10 music, and I'll be right back with a lot more. So if you want two fighting games, I definitely recommend King of Fighters 2002 be the second one after Mark of the Wolves. Now moving over to Shock Troopers, I definitely picked this one up, and that's because back in the day, it never actually had an AES cartridge made for it, because there's definitely some games out there that just never actually saw home versions. Yes, you can get an MVS cart, but basically if you want an AES cart, you're buying conversion territory, and that's something that I don't have in my collection outside of a few games like Neo Bomberman that also never saw that AES release. Shock Troopers is just straight up an amazing game, but if you're going to buy one and only one running gun for your AES Plus, Metal Slug definitely, in my opinion, is the better game. And I'm not saying that Shock Troopers isn't an amazing game, I'm just saying that it doesn't 100% hit that must-buy territory for everyone. For me, it definitely was a must-buy because it's one of those things that just doesn't exist as an AES cartridge out there for sale from back in the day, and I absolutely do love this game. And just like Metal Slug, it's going to be two-player, and it absolutely has an incredible personality and incredible vibe. And Big Mama here, the character I always play as, there's so many different characters in this game, but Big Mama 100% for me is the character you should choose. And just like Metal Slug, this is going to be action-packed and intense, challenging, and getting A1CC on it's probably going to take some months of learning. And that really is the thing. Even though the AES Plus and the AES Original Console by extension is just nothing but arcade games, and you think there's only 30-40 minutes of content in there, that's only if you play the game once. If you actually want to learn it, get better at it, turn up the difficulty, and try to beat the game with as less continues as possible, then there is dozens upon dozens of hours in basically every single game game on AES outside of a few select ones, and you could do a hell of a lot worse than Shock Troopers, and I love that Plaion brought this one out as an original 10 release for the AES Plus. Just seeing a game that never existed as an AES copy suddenly become available, it was in my cart basically second 10, and that really is fun considering that the AES Plus carts are going to be backwards compatible with original Neo Geo AES hardware. I'll definitely test it on both. It'll be the first time I'm able to do it with a quote-unquote original AES cart. Now moving over to the not must-buy category, but things that definitely are really fun if you're into them, this is Twinkle Star Sprites. It's basically a shmup that kind of plays a little bit like a Tetris or Puyo Puyo game. Not in the way that you're actually stacking any sort of blocks. What you're doing is here trying to get the best chains and hits on the shmup component of the game so that you can actually send those projectiles over to your opponent's screen. You have a health bar here. If you get hit, you lose health. If you hit your opponent, they lose health. Whoever runs out of health first, they lose the game, and whoever keeps their health wins. It is a very unique, very interesting kind of formula, and one that if you're into it, I think you'll absolutely fall in love with. But this is definitely one that's going to be hit or miss for a lot of people, but it is another one of the cartridges I picked up because I just don't own an original AES copy. When I actually had the money to buy these things, I went in a different direction. I'm glad I did, but now today as an original AES copy, this thing is an absolute fortune. It is a lot of fun, but it's definitely a lot better as a two-player game. As we move into the next round here again, using that charge shot, knocking those enemies over to your opponent's screen absolutely is fun, and when they knock them over to you, you not only have to read what you're shooting and make sure you don't get hit by your enemies on your screen, but also the projectiles have been kicked over from your opponent. It takes a lot of focus, it takes a lot of attention, and it absolutely, in my opinion, hits, but your mileage may vary. It's also going to be your next soundtrack sample because one of the most charming soundtracks on the Neo Geo, but come back because I still have the rest of the games to talk about and whether or not I recommend you pick them up. I mean, Twinkle Star Sprites is absolutely an amazing game, but I know it's not going to be for everyone, so it doesn't hit the must-buy list. Now, one that I'm going to get some comments about down below, I would also say Samurai Shodown 5 is absolutely not a must-buy. Now, don't get me wrong, I do love this game. It's one of those things that absolutely hits as far as the Samurai Shodown game is concerned, but I just understand that 1, it's not the best Samurai Shodown on the Neo Geo, and 2, it's one of those things that is slower paced, and it is kind of a love it or hate it vibe when it comes to fighting game fans. If I could wave my magic wand to make one game come out on something like AES Plus, even though it is one of the cheapest games you can get on an original AES cart, it would be Samurai Shodown or Samurai Spirits 2. And don't forget, in Japan it's Samurai Spirits, and in North America it's Samurai Shodown. I just think the second game is still absolutely the best on the Neo Geo personally, but it kind of makes sense that maybe why Plaion didn't release it, because it is a cheap AES cart to buy. But I know now when the AES Plus comes out, it's probably not going to be cheap anymore. And it's one of those things, people keep talking about the fact that, am I worried that this is going to devalue my Neo Geo collection? 1, I don't collect video games as an investment. They're worth what they're worth, and I don't really care because I'm not getting rid of them. And 2, people are going to be rushing out to try to buy original AES cartridges for their AES Plus, so I think you're just going to see the price kind of actually raised to a new ceiling. If you're into Samurai Shodown and you don't own this game, absolutely would be an amazing addition to your AES Plus collection, but it's one of those things, if you like a faster paced fighting game, get Mark of the Wolves or King of Fighters 2002. If you want to wait to see if something like Samurai Shodown 2 ever comes to the AES Plus, also worth it. You will not be disappointed in this game unless you hate the kind of slower paced combat of Samurai Shodown, and in that instance no Sam Show game would ever actually make you happy. But it's one of those things, I wanted to put this on the must-buy list, but considering the fighting games that are available, 2 of which are Garo Mark of the Wolves and King of Fighters 2002, Samurai Shodown 5 slid to the 3rd in that list, so it went from being a must-buy to a game that I think a lot of people would be happy with. But if you're only going to pick up a couple games, and one fighting game might not be Samurai Shodown 5, I would recommend. But you tell me down below what you guys think. Now moving over to Magician Lord, I think this is both a must-buy as well as not a must-buy, just depending on the context that I look at it from. And this is from the earlier era of something like AES and MVS games, because SNK had more than one graphical style on the AES and MVS, and honestly, even though it's all the same hardware, that kind of break in the generations makes it feel like some of the later games are running on something like an AES 2. I love Magician Lord. It is absolutely a brutally hard as nails game, and I think everyone should play it because it kind of shows you where SNK came from. But as far as a platformer is concerned, Neo Geo never had a must-buy platformer in my opinion. My favorite is probably Top Hunter Roddy and Kathy, which isn't available on any of these cards, but I own a copy of Magician Lord and I absolutely do love the thing. It's just one of those things. It is not going to live up to the platforming hype of anything that came out on any other consoles, but I have a special place in my heart for Magician Lord, and I think you definitely would have fun with it, but maybe it doesn't live up to that $90 game hype. But you tell me down below if you ever played Magician Lord before. I would be very curious. And don't get me wrong, it's not a bad game. It's actually a really fun, really good game. It's just a game that I don't think everyone's out there is going to be as excited by as some of the other stuff that's coming out in November as far as cards are concerned. And this one is still a quote-unquote cheaper AES cartridge, so it's one of those things. A lot of people have this in their collections if they collect AES and have had it for a very long time. Speaking of long time, it's been a few minutes since we did a soundtrack sample, so I'm going to do a Magician Lord soundtrack sample to move into a couple more games because again, we're still not done talking about all of the different launch library for the AES Plus, and trust me, for the most part it absolutely is like a 9.5 out of 10 as far as the games are concerned. Now moving over to the last game in the AES Plus 10 that are going to be available on release is Overtop, and I would say it's the only game that I would say is really a do not recommend for me personally. I am not saying Overtop is a bad game, I'm just saying it's one that I've never clicked with, and at least for me personally, the Neo Geo doesn't have a quote-unquote must-play racing game. It just wasn't the actual genre for the hardware, and I feel like this one was released so they could kind of cover every genre out there, or at least some of the top ones for arcades. Racing games, fighting games, shmups, things like that, even some platformers, or in Twinkle Star Sprite's instance, a shmup that's also a Tetris game. Now don't get me wrong, Overtop can be fun, but I feel like for the $90 asking price, if you had 5 games in front of you, this would be the one you got the least enjoyment out of. But so a lot of you actually went out and bought all 10 of the games as that collection set, so don't be disappointed by it. I'm not saying it isn't a good game, I'm not saying it can't be fun, I'm just saying it never really hits for me, and personally the isometric viewpoint, this absolutely means that I am terrible at this game, because racing games in my opinion should be played from the first person view, and if not from the third person view directly behind the vehicle. Here having that kind of isometric viewpoint for half of the time when you're actually at a 45-degree angle or otherwise racing across the screen, it just absolutely breaks my brain. So if you're on the fence about this one, maybe try it out in MAME, maybe try it out in Final Burn Neo, because the good thing is you can play all of these games and audition them because they're still available for pre-order. But that is my ranking situation for the new Plaion AES Plus. It is absolutely loaded with some of the best AES games of all time, and maybe I'll do a video with 10 more games I'd love to see if they release more. Tell me down below what you picked up, what your favorite is, but I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.